Celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting, 5 times a week, Monday through Friday. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente, Monday, May 18th, 2015. And here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, over there in Asia, same as Europe, like the United States. Everything is kind of like that. Not much of anything. Dow up a little bit, mixed on the other markets. And gold. Well, gold's hanging up there, near its 3-month high. But not doing much of anything, and neither is oil. But the big news is China's property prices fall. 6.1% in April. But market watchers believe that the flood of liquidity from China's aggressive monetary easing could spur housing sales. Because, as we reported, in China goes Ponzi. They cut their interest rates for the third time, and they cut the reserve requirement ratios for banks also a couple of times, 2 times this year. And over the weekend, when nobody was looking, Financial Times, weekend edition, China orders banks to keep lending to insolvent provincial projects. Yay, more Ponzi. They ordered banks to prop up insolvent provincial government projects in the latest effort to support rapidly cooling growth and put off dealing with the mountain of debt that has built up over the last 6 years. The directive, issued jointly by the finance minister, banking regulator, and central bank, highlights the challenges facing China as a struggle to deal with the massive volume of debt left in the wake of its post-crisis stimulus amid a sharply slowing economy. In the aftermath of the global financial crisis, China launched an enormous stimulus program described by economists at the time as the biggest fiscal and monetary easing in history. Analysts said the move amounted to an official policy of extending and pretending that an estimated $3.5 trillion of questionable local government debt would eventually all be repaid. Quote, much of the local government debt in China probably has a solvency problem, but Beijing would like to pretend they have a liquidity problem instead, and they want to keep lending in the vain hope that borrowers will be able to repay one day. And it goes on. There's no way, there's a way of solving the debt problem. And again, they keep these Ponzi schemes going and the equity markets boosted by just funneling in cheap money. And speaking about cheap money, problems over there in Greece. Check this out. Greece had to come up with 750 million euros last week. Here's the way they got it. Athens ultimately made the payment by tapping into a rarely used emergency account Greece holds at the fund, an unorthodox transaction that amounted to borrowing IMF funds to pay the IMF. And now they owe another $300 million in IMF payments coming in June, $7.2 billion looming. So it's all one big Ponzi scheme. So things aren't very good. Having trouble, can't find a job. I got one for you. I'm not making this up. This is out of Reuters. You better sign up now. Saudi Arabia advertises for new executioners to deal with surging death sentences. Our allies. You remember, don't you? Obama praises them. Bush bows to them. Condoleezza Rice greets them. Hey, even Mrs. President, First Lady, went over there to pay her respects. to the beheaders in chief. They all get together. They love each other. Mass murderers, psychopaths, what a crew. All the world leaders, they all bow down to the king. Hey, but don't bow too down far, man. They may have one of those new executioners that, just got on the job, and maybe he'll chop off your head. He didn't know any better. Saudi Arabia is advertising for 8 new executioners, recruiting extra staff to carry out an increasing number of death sentences done by public beheading. No special qualifications are needed for the jobs, whose main role is, quote, executing a judgment of death. But it also involves performing amputations on those convicted of lesser offenses. Now, you see, they're not all that bad. And someday they're even going to let women drive cars. Hey, Hillary, where are you? Hey, Samantha, what do you got, lockjaw today? Where's Susan Rice and Condoleezza Rice? Where are all of you people that speak about freedom and invading other countries because of the heinous acts they commit? But not when you're selling them a lot of military goods, huh? Like that deal Obama did over the weekend with all of them Arab leaders signing up for more military contracts. We're going to protect you, I tell you. Sign on the bottom line. A man beheaded Sunday was the 85th person this year whose execution was recorded by the official Saudi press agency. And by the way, a downloadable PDF application for the executioner's job is available on the website carrying Monday's date. It said the jobs were classified as, quote, religious functionaries, and that they would be at the lower end of the civil service pay scale. Religious functionaries. Anybody could use their religion to believe anything that they want. Keep your religion to yourself. Believe in what you like. Don't push it off on me. I've had it. I have my religious beliefs. They're mine. I don't push them on anybody else's. But speaking of religious beliefs and pushing them on everybody else, well, here we go. Netanyahu, the answer to terror attacks is continued Jerusalem construction. This was at Jerusalem Day ceremony yesterday. We are determined to go after terrorists and stand against those who wish to harm us as a fortified wall, Netanyahu said at Jerusalem Day ceremony. And we have another decisive answer. We will keep building Jerusalem all the time, developing it and paving new roads to it. Jerusalem is our eternal united capital. It will never be divided again, Netanyahu vowed. And he said that liberation and unification of Jerusalem is a drama on biblical scales. Quote, our feet are standing within the gate, O Jerusalem, that art built as a city that is compact together. Quoting Psalm number 22, chapter 7, verse 3, paragraph 8 of the Bible said it's a land deed. And God was the real estate agent. But the United Nations says, quote, Israel's unilateral annexation of East Jerusalem, the surrounding West Bank, hitherland contravenes international law. Screw international law. Hey, I'm a chosen person. Hey, what's the matter? Didn't you read Psalm 8, paragraph 3, section 4? He says it right there. It's all spelled out in perfect, whatever language you want to believe. It is recognized by the international community, which considers East Jerusalem an integral part of the occupied Palestinian territory. The UN maintains, citing Security Council resolutions 256, 267, 471, 476, and 478. Quote, since 1967, Israeli measures have altered the status of East Jerusalem and affected the residency status of Palestinians, their access to basic services, and their ability to plan and develop their communities. Israeli settlement activity in East Jerusalem is illegal and occurs at the expense of land and resources for Palestinian construction and development, placing residents at risk of forced eviction, displacement, and dispossession. As an occupying power, Israel is responsible for administrating the occupied territories for the benefit of the protected Palestinian population. He didn't read that psalm. Criminals. Criminality. And speaking of criminals, Hillary Clinton. Yeah! We came, we saw, he died. He. Yeah, Libyan executioner. Yeah, the one that pushed for the Libyan war. And all those, hey, remember her husband Bill bombing Baghdad all the time? You forgot about those no-fly zones? Not a fly around. We killed them all and the people. You remember that other one? Another wonderful woman, Madeleine Albright, when asked if the death of 500,000 Iraqi children because of the sanctions and bombings of Hillary Clinton's husband on Iraq was worth the price, she said it was. Anyway, going back to a little bit of economic news, labor aids Clinton on trade. That's right, Hillary still won't mention how she stands on the TransPacific Partnership deal. And labor is giving her a free ride. That's right. And why not? Hey, remember when she packed up that camper and hit the road to speak to them folks in Iowa? And you remember when she left the White House, she said they was broke? And Bill came out last week and said he had bills to pay, and that's why they had to make this dough. In 1 year, last year, 2014, they made $30 million since 2014. One speech was $335,000. What? You can hear them bullshit all day long. You're going to pay that kind of money for it? They never stop bullshitting. What do you think these are? These are payoffs. That's all it is. She got $5 million to write that book. $5 million bucks. And you know when they released this information? On Friday. Because Friday, late in the afternoon, there's no reporters left anyway. There's hardly left at all. So hardly anybody follows the facts because they are lost. Good day over there in Egypt. They're getting right next to their buddies over there in Saudi Arabia. They executed 6 convicted of killing military officers. And Morsi, the former president, they sentenced him to death. More of our own money to Egypt. More of our own money to the slaughters around the world. More arms, more death. That's what I say. And more good news. Over the weekend, when nobody's looking, House passed $612 billion military spending bill, $90 billion in overseas contingency operation funds. Yeah, slaughtering people in a foreign country. That's a nice name for it. And hey, the murderer-in-chief, U.S. drone strike kills 5 in North Waziristan. Suspected Taliban's in a compound. And they gave the death sentence to that Boston bomber. So I say, what's good for the Boston bomber is good for the Iraq bomber. That's right. All the people that bombed Iraq on the false information that is still killing them, let's bring them up for a trial too, and maybe a beheading. Hey, I got the place to do it. And hey, we get enough of them, they'll have to hire another 8. Because there are a lot of war criminals in the United States that push this war. We could go with Rumsfeld. We could go with Wolfowitz. We could go with, how about George W. Bush? Yeah. How about Colin Powell, Condoleezza Rice? But maybe I'm being a little too harsh. Look what George Bush said a little while ago. Imagine what the world would look like today with Saddam Hussein still ruling Iraq. He would still be threatening his neighbors, sponsoring terrorism, and piling bodies into mass graves. Mass graves? How about the millions that you killed, George? Right over there in Iraq. But hey, nobody has to pay for their mistakes. Not when you're a commander-in-chief. Not when you're one of the higher-ups. Remember, justice only for us. Or else, you go to Saudi Arabia and you get your head cut off. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's Trends in the News.